this case has already, not just me, but all three of us, it's eaten up 20 years of our lives. So it's not easy to have to keep reliving it, keep talking about it over and over. It's a very, very difficult thing. You know, it feels like it's a continuing violation in a way. But at the same time, I don't want it to just be forgotten, because people think this case is something out of the ordinary. And it's not. It happens to people all the time.
Damien and I would exchange letters through his sister. She'd write me and include a letter from Damien, and I'd write her and include a letter for Damien. And one day the warden called me up to his office and said, "Hey, this has got to stop or I'm going to put you in the hole." You know, and then it was a few years later, the warden called me to his office again. He was like, "Hey, they might be shipping Jesse over here. Do you have any objections to that?" And I'm like, "No, you know, he hasn't done anything wrong. You know, he was forced into that situation and made to cry uncle," or whatever you want to say. I was working in the law library, and it was my job to, you know, do the legal requests for the guys on death row and on lockdown back there. And at the end of the day, I had to have like a stack of paperwork to send back there. My supervisor, she'd come pick it up, and I'd have it on a rolling cart. One day she called and she was like, "Hey, I'm really busy. I can't come get it. Would you bring it to my office?" And so I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." So I was wheeling it down there, and I happened to glance in the visitation window, and I saw Damien and Lori in there. So I tapped on the window. Lori, you know, elbow, got Damien's attention. He's got to get his glasses on so he can see me, you know. And we just waved at each other. And about that point, when the guards was like, "Keep it moving, Baldwin," I'm like, "All right." So it was just like a, you know, just a split-second thing, you know. And Damien was so happy about it, he wrote about it in his book, Almost Home. And the night it came out, they took my job away from me.
Mr. Byers and I started corresponding a little right towards the end, whenever we were about to get out. And we sort of reconciled with each other and apologized to each other for the names we had called each other and everything else over the years. And I think he's actually a really great person for doing what he did, you know, standing up for us the way he did, which wasn't easy, with everything he had to put behind him and get over in order to do that. Terry Hobbs, I try not to think about it at all. That's the sort of thing that'll drive you crazy if you think about it. If you think someone else was responsible for you losing 18 and a half years of your life, it would drive you insane.
You know, we still keep in touch with, you know, a lot of people today that helped over the years. We still keep in touch with them.
You know, Eddie Vedder used to come and see me at the prison. He would come to death row and visit there, so he was there all the time. And, you know, since we've been out also, we had people that didn't just, you know, throw money at the case, but actually got involved on emotional and psychological levels, that have been with us through this whole time and are still sticking with us now. You know, whenever I got locked up, there was no such thing as the internet. I hadn't seen a computer since 1986. I'd never used a cell phone. So there's all of that stuff, but there's also things that people don't think about. You know, I hadn't eaten a fork in almost 20 years, so I was having to learn to use a fork again. I haven't walked with chains, without having chains on my feet for almost 20 years. So it literally is, you know, like having to learn to walk again. The first few days I was out, I kept almost falling constantly. So there's lots of those things too.
Right now, you know, I'm just living life, you know, trying to enjoy it, pick up pieces. I got my driver's permit Monday, you know. Just doing normal things. I haven't actually driven yet, but I got the permit. Some friends of mine have assured me that I will be enrolling in the driving school next week, perhaps. So I don't think anybody's brave enough to actually let me drive their car. But, you know, just doing normal things. I'm working on a construction crew. I'm working with a great bunch of guys, and, you know, got my first paycheck. Going to movies, theaters, being with family, friends, people, you know, that's been supportive over, you know, 2 decades, and just happier than anything just to see us out and wearing normal clothes and without anybody, you know, running up saying your visit's terminated or you have 5 minutes left or whatever.
I've been writing again. I want to try to capture all this while it's still new and get it down on paper. Maybe it'll help me digest a little bit of it later. You know, it's, in a lot of ways, it's felt like every day is a week since we've gotten out. You know, and it almost, we haven't even been out 2 months yet. And in some ways it feels like prison was years ago already. And it's a lot to digest, and I just want to save it and go back later and get some of the parts that I may be missing now. You know, when I was on death row, I used to get letters from junior high school kids, whole bundles of letters where whole classes would write me. Junior high school kids can come to the conclusion that we're innocent, but the public officials in Arkansas aren't that smart. They knew, they just didn't care. What they were doing was doing anything they could to win the next election. That was their first and only priority. What will win them the next election?
The truth of the matter is, we have alibi witnesses showing, you know, where we were at the times of the crimes, and based on that alone, without anything else, we should be fully exonerated. Governor should grant us pardons, you know, based on the knowledge of our innocence. There are so many cases that go unsolved in America, and for our liberty to be hinged upon finding who really done this is it's a almost insurmountable task to put on our shoulders. You know, I'm not aware of any actual investigation the state's doing on its own under its power of law. So it's just really up to the people, you know, to continue to fight to find who really done the crime and to push for our exoneration.